Well, good afternoon, Vanessa.
Hey Sharon, how you doing? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great, thank you, and welcome to the Recruit Marketing and Sales Podcast. It's great to have you as a guest for our series of interviews. Now, I kind of like know your story, but I think you can tell it so much better. Even your kind of like top line version. But you are the talent hunter. And I know that some of our listeners will have heard of you, and there'll be many that don't. So you're based in that beautiful part of South Africa, but I'm going to invite you to do a quick intro, and then we're going to dive into questions because there's so much that we could talk about in terms of sourcing. And I know that you've got lots that you like to share. So you go ahead, introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sharon. So, as mentioned, my name is Vanessa Raath, and I am based in a very beautiful part of South Africa. I am in Plettenberg Bay, which is on the Garden Route, which I absolutely love. I finally feel like I have achieved that work-life balance that I've been chasing for so many years.
Yeah.
And what I do is I'm a global talent sourcing trainer. So I train teams all over the world on how to find talent more effectively and more efficiently than their competitors. So kind of like my go-to market is stop paying ridiculous amounts of money for LinkedIn licenses, learn how to write Boolean, learn how to X-ray, and realize that candidates have options these days. So if you're looking for software
Yeah.
engineers, don't go to LinkedIn. Go to GitHub, go to Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
As well as that, I do a lot of keynote speaking, traveling all over the world. That's how we met. Sharon and I met
It
when we were
certainly
both
is. And
presenting
I
at a
know that
conference in
you're off
Marbella.
again. You're off again as well next week, aren't you?
Absolutely. Next week, heading off to Bogota in Colombia, which I'm looking forward to too. And I also run a lot of generative AI workshops at the moment. So it seems like my training has morphed into how we can use Gen AI more effectively.
Cool, cool. So, well, look, let's kind of like dive into that first part of the conversation then around sourcing because, um, you know, gosh, think things are changing all the time, aren't they? And tech's evolving. We know we've had that massive acceleration of the evolution of tech on the back of the whole COVID situation. So, what would you say right now when when you're talking with teams, and owners? What are the challenges that they are facing day to day when it comes to sourcing talent? Because there is talent on the market, but yet what I hear owners talking about, and certainly their teams, is excuse me, they're looking for those quality candidates, the more passive people. So you know, over to you. What are those common challenges that you come across?
Very interesting questions. I think that this is a global crisis at the moment. Is that there are so many companies out there trying to fight over a relatively small pool of candidates. So where this used
Mm,
to be, say for example, an African problem, is that Africa didn't have enough skills due to our poor education system. Now we're seeing countries all over the world, US and Europe, all fighting over a very small pool of talent. So for me, the best answer for this is to people need to think about first of all where they are looking. So from a talent sourcing perspective, I mean, I train teams literally from Auckland to Seattle, and I always start my training with where are you finding the majority of your candidates these days? And everyone comes back with two places: one, LinkedIn, and second, local job boards. And my
right.
thinking is just we're all looking in the same place. No wonder we're all coming up empty handed. So
Mm,
the companies that I see doing really well are the ones who are embracing their niche, specializing in their niche, and building communities and networks in that recruiting niche that they are looking at, because they are the people
mm,
who know what's happening in the candidate market, know kind of speak the language of these candidates, know what they're looking for, and they're making the quicker placements with clients.
yeah. And it's interesting that you're talking about, and it's good in a way because with a marketing hat on, then we always talk about niching, specialization, and and I get that in challenging markets like some of the sectors are experiencing right now, that can be tough. And so there's that tendency to want to go broad again. And I think that's fine, if you're going with some aligned sectors, but it's just a case of don't go back to being general and having 15 sectors that you can't really service, can you? So the specialization is great.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, that is the go-to place, as you say, for many people. Um,
Yep.
Interestingly, even this week, I've had some conversation with some smaller SMEs where they don't have, let's say, a full professional recruiter license. They are doing
Mm-hmm.
other things. They're not necessarily perhaps embracing some of the strategies that maybe that I know that you would talk about. But it's interesting how people perhaps are questioning LinkedIn. So so you said, for you, it's about getting away from LinkedIn. And I know Mike Batman Cohen, when we're chatting with him earlier in the year, um, shares a very similar view. So what are some of the options then if you want to start building some of those communities, in specialized niches that you refer to?
So, and I think Batman and I are always on the same page as this. We do collaborate a lot, and he's a good friend. So for me, I think that community building is actually the future of recruitment. And I know that that is a big statement, but I really think that in the world of generative AI and all of the chatbots out there, that the way that recruiters can stay relevant and stay up to date is literally by being more human. So the
Mm,
recruiters that are doing well that I see out there are the ones that are embracing tools like ChatGPT to take away the admin, just to allow them to have more time to up their human, spend more
mm,
time having conversations with people. And the
mm,
rise of the community is something that has come out of COVID, and it's become easier to run communities. I run a community on Facebook called the Talent Hunters, but I'm thinking about, and this will be early next year, moving to a dedicated community platform. So there's lots out there. There's Guild, there's Circle, there's Heartbeat. And I do believe that if you can get a group of like minded people into a community, and you can only do that if you have a specialization. Let's be
mm,
honest, because you have to get those people that buy into your vision. That
mm.
is going to be your talent pool of the future.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about thinking out of the box. Where can the tech assist us, and who can you bring on board who are the natural leaders, the respected people in the industry, the influencers, all of those things that would
Mm,
help you to build this community.
mm. Ah, I like that. What do you think perhaps stops people from taking that leap?
So for me, I think that there's a lot of recruiters who, first of all, don't think that they could do it. There's a lot of self doubt out there
Yeah.
amongst recruiters. And I think that there's a lot of recruiters out there who sit back and think, oh, I should have worked harder on my brand. I should have built more of a brand, not realizing that it's not too late to start. I
Yes.
think that if you have a brand and people look up to you and they value what you say, and they value the contributions that you make to a sector or an industry or whatever it might be, is you can
Mm,
quickly build a brand and amass a following.
yeah.
It's not too late to start. So I think also there's a fear of going it alone. A lot of good communities that I know actually have teams or a small committee, sometimes just three, four, or five people that are running
Mm,
it. So you're kind of splitting the workload, you approaching it from different angles. And I think that that's the way that people need to think about it. When you're
mm,
one person and you're sitting there thinking, how am I going to start a community? Like, why are people going to join me? It's a lot more
mm.
difficult than if you had three or four people brainstorming about, okay, how are we going to
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, I think that's, I think it's often that fear and that uncertainty, and also as well, perhaps sometimes that not understanding what's involved. And so you build it up as being a big kind of like issue. And depending on how many people you have got to collaborate and help work it, then it's very easy to dismiss it before actually you dive in, find out what's the facts about what's involved, and then make an informed
Mm.
decision about, well, look, in how I want to evolve the business, how I evolve my marketing. Well, then, I start building the brand now, and then, maybe 3 6 months time, well, then we start the community once we've kind of like got some more noise out there about the
Yep.
brand, and do it in a phase thing rather than perhaps dismissing it because, oh, that's too big. We couldn't necessarily do
And I
that
think
because,
it kind of boils down to us as a society of instant gratification these days.
oh,
And a lot of
yeah,
people are not realizing is that, building a brand, whether it's a company brand, an employer brand, a personal brand, is that it is
yeah,
a 5-day match, as I always explain to
yeah,
those of us who understand
yeah.
cricket. It's not something that
Yeah,
happens
well,
overnight.
absolutely, yeah. It's not like a hundred or the 2020, is it? It's you're in it for the long
No,
game. You know, so
exactly.
thinking then about about sourcing and different platforms. Obviously, if people aren't going to use LinkedIn as their go-to place, you mentioned when you were introducing yourself and what you do. You talked about Boolean. So what are some of the starting points, let's say, for people who have just relied on LinkedIn, and you're saying, look, take the blinkers off and let's start looking a little bit wider. What's the
Yeah.
starting point for them? Because
So one of
there's
the
a
key
lot
things
with
that I
it.
always say,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, there's a lot. I say that when I start this in my training, this is how I approach it. And I say, LinkedIn is great, but it shouldn't be your starting and your end points. So you
Right.
should
Yeah.
be starting your searches on a search engine because that's what they're designed to do, is to go and search the whole internet. And you literally have the whole internet at your fingertips. So you could
Mm,
find someone on another platform or even on Facebook or X or Instagram or wherever you find them, and then
mhm.
you can cross reference them through LinkedIn. And what
Yeah.
you'll start noticing is that their most up to date version of things is often Facebook. Because a lot of people update their Facebook because they want their friends and family to know. Maybe they've got a promotion. Maybe they've, started a new job. It's not their first thought when someone starts a new position to suddenly think, oh, let me go and update LinkedIn so a whole lot of recruiters can start harassing me.
Yeah.
So I think that even if you find someone on another platform, and the easiest way to find out where people spend their time is to ask your candidates, look, you're a data
Mm,
architect. Where do you spend your time? They're probably going
mhm,
to come back with Kaggle, or you're a creative, you're a UI or UX developer or designer. Where are we going to find you? Oh, you've got a profile on Behance or Dribble or ArtStation.
mm,
It's about
mm.
knowing where these people choose to spend their time. Then you can find them where they choose to spend their time because that's probably where they spend their most amount of time. It's the most up to date. And then you can look on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn
Yeah.
will give you then the information of perhaps where they studied, what they studied. Maybe it's not up to date with their latest job, but generally someone signed up with a Gmail address. And then you've got
Yeah.
contact details.
Mm,
So, for me, it's about starting on a search engine and then not ending on LinkedIn by sending an email or just a connection request. It's about
mm,
taking it one step further, learning about Chrome extensions, learning about how to find email addresses. And from
mm,
there, try and reach out to someone in a different place because the whole world of in demand candidates is being completely swamped by recruiters all over the world because there's a global fight for talent
mm.
via a LinkedIn message, via connection requests, via an email. So stand out and do something different.
Yeah. And I mean, so it's one thing knowing where your market is engaging and interacting. It's another thing, obviously, you alluded to there, in terms of, learning sort of, tech and different extensions, that there is so much tech available.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I get owners saying to me, I had somebody yesterday saying that, look, I'm just going to cancel that because I'm just not using it. I'm using such a tiny part of it, and I've got this and I've got this, and I think there's that sense of a
Yeah.
bit of overwhelm. Tech doesn't get used properly that's kind of like what I hear, let's say. From your perspective, because you're closer to it, what I suppose again, what's some of the kind of, I suppose, the mistakes perhaps that people are making, and how can they avoid making some of these mistakes? I think is the key thing, isn't it? When they start on this journey of looking to start developing their sourcing skills.
So it's a very interesting question, and I think that new tech doesn't come with enough change management and getting the buy-in from the people. I think what I
Great
see in a
point.
lot of my clients is that the manager makes a decision. Let's get this new ATS or this new CRM, or let's buy 50 new LinkedIn recruiter licenses, and the team are sitting around thinking, what a waste of money. My gosh, they've just paid that amount of money for this tech and we didn't even need it. And I think
Mm,
that if the tech is driven by the demand of the people that are going to be using the tech, there's going to be a much higher adoption. And one of the best things that I see when it comes to my training and my talent sourcing training are the teams where the manager has said, look, guys, LinkedIn Recruiter has doubled their price in a year. We're not buying new LinkedIn Recruiter licenses. We are going to learn how to find talent in different places because it is possible. So your LinkedIn Recruiter license expires in 3 months. Here's the training that you need in order to not need a LinkedIn Recruiter license. And those recruiters like buy into my training 100%. They're like, right, we better listen to this woman because this is going to be the results. And I do think that,
yeah,
there is a lot of unnecessary spend on tech these days. And
right.
and again, right, coming down to the incorrect people who aren't using the tech day to day making those decisions, and also
Yeah,
some very persuasive salespeople out there who are almost using scare tactics to get people to pay a fortune for tech, and then when they implement it and they're now tied in, them and their firstborn child and a vial of blood every month, with these people for the next 5 years, it's too late. So
yeah.
there's not enough thought behind why.
Mm.
So
No.
at the moment, from a talent sourcing perspective, I mean, the reason why I actually started my talent sourcing training business 5.5 years ago was that a lot of these tools that are on the market and the Chrome extensions and all of those, they were prohibitive for South Africans to buy. So 5.5 years ago, before the pandemic, when I started my training, I thought that's it. I'm going to have a South African audience. It's where I live. It's where I know the industry. COVID accelerated that, and I now train all over the world. I train more teams in the UK than I do anywhere else. But a lot of my training is let me show you how to do it for free by using Google, because Google's for free. And there
Mm.
are actually far more tools than people realize out there that can actually be used for free. And it's literally is a crying shame. I have a lot of clients that say, "Oh, but we've just bought this. We paid this amount of money for it." And my first thought is, "Oh my gosh, they could have fed, a family in South Africa for 3 years what you've paid for a month." And it's absolutely useless. So I think that you don't know what you don't know, and it's about educating yourself about is there a better way before we actually have this big outlay.
I mean, when you're thinking about, obviously, Google, you talked about search engines and other free platforms. Are
Mm,
you thinking of I guess the second biggest search engine probably is YouTube these days, isn't it? Are you thinking of those
100%.
kinds of search
Brilliant.
engines and social and things?
Absolutely. I mean, everyone is somewhere on socials these days. It's just
Mm,
figuring out where to find them.
where the
I mean, I was helping a company in Australia recently, and they were looking for forklift drivers. Guess where we found them? TikTok, because when a forklift driver has like a half an hour tea break, they don't go and sit on LinkedIn, do they? They don't have a laptop.
no, no,
They're on their
no.
phone and they go and
Yeah,
scroll through TikTok videos. And that's
right.
where we found the highest
Yeah.
concentration of forklift drivers on the Gold Coast.
And it's really interesting because I was chatting with another guest recently, and we were talking about knowing where your market is, which you've alluded to, and I think the example in that scenario was um, a company who were looking to hire nurses. Nurses, medics, again, they don't necessarily live on LinkedIn. They certainly don't live on LinkedIn like we might live on LinkedIn. But
Exactly.
actually, they are on Facebook. Well, certainly nurses are on Facebook at night, and there's loads of kind of like nurse Facebook
Facebook and
groups.
Instagram, two places to find nurses,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah. And so it's really kind of like, I guess, if I step back from a marketing point of view, it's been really clear on who is my ideal client candidate, and then where are they?
Yep.
Where do I find them? Because then that leads you. I guess what I'm hearing you say is that can lead you to some much more targeted sourcing strategies outside that
Absolutely.
regular
Yeah.
starting point.
And that's why the specialization is key. Because then you
Right.
know, actually, if I'm looking
Yeah.
for forklift drivers, maybe I need to think about starting a TikTok channel.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for nurses, then I need to be on Facebook because that's where they are.
Yeah.
I need to target my ads there as well as
Yeah.
starting a group or a community on Facebook.
Yeah. And so let's say, um, when you are, well, there's two questions that come to mind actually. So I'll do the first one. So when you're working with recruiters and you are training them on all the different options outside LinkedIn for sourcing, how do you get that balance between the tech and the human side? Because you did mention right at the beginning the importance of that human connection.
No, I think that and I actually just had an example of this afternoon. I was working with a group from the UK, and they told me that they use AI to write Boolean strings. And when I actually did that, it wrote an incorrect Boolean string. So it's
Yeah.
about having the human who knows to how do you oversee the Boolean? Is it right?
Mm,
Is it going to bring up the right results? And if you don't have the human to do that, then it's going to fail. But then the important part of where the human comes into play is that knowing when you find a nurse on Instagram, what you probably can do is you can run a Google search on their name, you can find them on another platform, you can activate a Chrome extension to write an email, and then you can write them a personalized outreach,
mm.
which I'm sure AI tools out there can, and definitely in the future will be able to go and find the person on the internet and find an email address, but they're going to send a really robotic, reach out message.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
human comes into play when it
Mhm.
comes to actually connecting with another human being.
Yes. Yeah. No, I like that, and that's interesting what you're saying about the roboticness of the language, because you can see some of the AI generated language, because there's certain
Absolutely.
expressions and words that AI loves, so
Yes.
it does stand out a little bit, doesn't it? But just thinking about, talking about sort of clients. I mean, what would be a story that you could share perhaps for listeners around a company that you've worked with, and how they've been able to make that transition, so they're not as reliant on LinkedIn, but they're able to use some of the other strategies and platforms that you talk about, and what's their
So
success been?
okay, so that's excellent. Let me just answer the first part. You were talking about, getting a lot more content generated by ChatGPT. I just want to put out a warning there that it's actually just come out at the beginning of this week, is that LinkedIn's algorithm picks up generative AI. So where you and I, I'm sure, are both seeing lots of posts of people that are using Gen AI, and we look at those words and we recognize that this is not written by the person. What LinkedIn is doing is it's not promoting any of those posts. So that's an important one.
Yeah.
Okay, to get back to your question then of what you were asking, just remind me, what was your question?
So the question was really just, I guess, a success story, really, Vanessa, of a company that you've worked with and you've been
Let
able
me
to
think.
help them, move away from that
So
reliance.
on a LinkedIn. So bearing in
Yeah.
mind that I've now been training teams for 5.5 years and have trained well over 1,000 people. The success stories for me are on my LinkedIn recommendations, which at the last I saw was over like 500. So it's all there. But the one that always stands out in my mind was actually a company that approached me probably in the just as the second year of COVID started. And it was a female run team. They were based here they had like an African presence in Southern Africa. And they approached me and they said, all of this money that we are spending in tech and tools is crippling us. You know, we're trying to recruit throughout a global pandemic. What can you do to help us? Like we either going to have to shut down our doors, try and
Mm,
find employment, but we don't want to do that because we support so many females and they're the breadwinners, etc., etc. So I said, right, let's do this training. You can't afford, you know, my full training because I mean by then they were about to shut the business. I said, let's do like one day and I'm going to jam pack it with as much as possible.
mm,
What actually happened was 3 months later, after doing the training, being able to cut down on their tech spend and all of those things, is that they actually I had the most amazing delivery at my house. Food basket, wine, flowers, the whole lot, because I had managed to assist them and their team of about 10 recruiters to turn things around. And within 3 months, they were running at a profit. And that for me is just they weren't stupid before they did my training, but they didn't know
no,
what they didn't know. And I
yeah,
think that that's where a lot of recruiters are kind of doing the same thing, recruiting the same way that they were doing even 5 years ago. The whole industry's changed. Gen AI has thrown a curveball into it. Candidates are far more resilient and know
mm,
exactly what they want. So our story has had to adapt, and with all of that. So yeah, I think that the only constant in life is change, and there's not enough recruiters that are willing to change.
yeah. And I love that. It's like it's getting more. I remember hearing a coach of mine sort of once saying, you know, your level of success is directly related to the level of discomfort that you are willing to embrace, really. You know,
Exactly.
and living outside
Exactly.
the comfort zone, is not necessarily the best thing. But I mean, thinking about the future, okay, because you're right there, sorry, in the heart of all the tech, etc.
Hmm.
I know there's no crystal ball here, and gosh, the rate of development and everything, Vanessa, I'm not going to ask you to predict that, but what would you see perhaps as some of the emerging trends from a tech point of view, in our industry that we might
So I
need to
think
just,
Gen AI is
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I think Gen AI is going to just change the way that we all work. And that's just not a recruiter thing. But it has
Mm,
more of an impact on recruiters because we might be hiring for different skills. So
mm,
I think the tech is there. The tech has actually been there for a long time. It's how
mm,
companies decide to embrace the tech, which is going to be a big differentiator between, you
yes.
know, different, say, let's say, third-party recruiters out there. So, as you say, there's no crystal ball, but for
Mm,
me, the best advice would be get onto ChatGPT, go and play with it, try to break it, figure out how it can help you. For me, the biggest thing is that we've got to be more human as recruiters. So you've got to identify in your day to day, your weekly processes, what is repetitive, what is taking up too much of your time, what is very admin related. I mean, no one went into recruitment because they love admin. People go into recruitment because they love working with people. So
mm,
you've got to remove the friction. So how can you use and what is the best Gen AI tool to remove the friction to allow you to be more human? So it's
yeah.
got to be an enabler and it's going to have to empower us to do
Mm,
better and be more human like. And I think
yeah.
that is the key of what we can focus on for at least the next 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I think that there's, you know, I think sometimes there can be a sense of, and sometimes when you hear Elon Musk talk, it might be that we're not going to be required. I'm not, maybe not in our
Yes, yes,
lifetime, but
scaremongering.
but I think it does kind of like make people feel uncomfortable and uncertain, and yet I kind of like think that um, people still buy people first, which is that old adage that
Yeah,
I was trained on many many years ago, and we are still very much looking for human connection. I think the whole COVID experience probably
yep,
um, accelerated that and really brought that out, that we do want connection with people. And so,
Sure.
I think it's really good to hear you sort of say, well, look, let's use tech in a certain way that can allow us to be productive with things that may be our routine, so that actually we can spend more time on the engagement, on the relationship building. And of course, one of the other conversations I have separately is quite frequently with owners is how to move from a transactional business model through to a more consultative model with different products and services as a vehicle to be more distinctive in the market, because it is a very competitive market, and it's, as you say, it's a
Absolutely.
global market. So if you can use tech to do what you've described, so actually, as we can use our human talents and skills to be
Yep.
evolving our businesses in that direction, then I can only see that being a really good thing, as well for
Yeah.
companies.
Absolutely.
So listen, I know we
I
could talk
agree.
for ages, but it's been good to just start to get underneath the surface of which is a big topic, I know. So
Yeah.
thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Absolute
Um,
pleasure.
and it'll be good probably to catch up sometime in 12 months and see how things are evolving, and
Yeah.
chat then. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If anyone's got any questions, I mean, I'm not difficult to find online. I mean, you're welcome to connect on LinkedIn and ask me any questions. Yeah,
I was
just
going to
let me
say,
know that you heard me on the
what's your
podcast.
website? What's your website as well, Vanessa?
Very simple. It's vanessaraath.com. I've actually got free training on there. So if you want to go and do some free training, then you are more than welcome to. That's why it's there. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Insta. I'm on TikTok. So really, it's put Vanessa Raath into Google and choose where you would
And you'll
prefer to
find
follow
them.
me.
Absolutely fantastic. Listen,
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate you asking me to be a guest.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, and I look forward to seeing you at one of the events, because I know we'll be hooking up at an event before long as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care,
Excellent.
Vanessa. Bye for now.
Cheers, Sharon. Thank you. Bye.